But if we make this, we make it work for us.
Create chaos. War.
Fear.
Fear. Brutal. Total.
I'm done trying to win over people's hearts.
Let's attack them.
We can work with fear.
Yes, we can. We don't submit to terror. We make the terror.
More than chaos.
I was designed like this because you people are more comfortable interacting with your own kind. If I didn't wear the suit, it would defeat the purpose.
Making you guys pretty close, huh?
Not too close, I hope.
A frog! Some banging music, dude. And since I basically idled for like 3 minutes while playing that last track, I should mention that song was called "Dirty Like a Frenchman" by Catharsis. Although it's spelt in a retarded way. If you liked that song that you were listening to while I was doing fucking nothing, I don't know, it feels bad if I'm just playing music that other people worked presumably pretty hard on while I'm sitting here clipping my nails or doing whatever else. So I'll just shout them out so that you guys know what the fuck is going on. Although I guess I link a playlist to all this music in the description anyway. So if you really want something, you'll find it. Alright, so let's work on some Hydra stuff. What do you guys say? I'm experimenting, and I have just Restream chat open. I don't have any of the other chats on my monitor. I'll periodically do this to check. Make sure that we're good. But otherwise, we're flying with no, by the seat of our pants here, by the seat of our Restream chat. What's up, Alexander? How you doing, dude? So, we'll be back to the normal schedule next week. Although it won't really be... It'll be normal in terms of the times. But it won't be as normal in terms of what content I'm streaming. Because every day will be a mod stream, like every weekday. But most of them will be map crapping, as opposed to Hydra. I'm not sure if I'll have time to do any for Hydra. But we'll see. And then I guess we'll probably finish Retribution tomorrow, judging by how we've destroyed them in, how we've destroyed those campaigns otherwise, so. With that assumption intact, we'll be starting Insurrection next week. Alright. Okay, so I want to focus on the AI for Redwood, and then if we manage to get anywhere with that, we can move away from that to Ultramarine. Just take a look here. Oh, fuck. So how's everybody doing today? You guys having a good time? You guys hanging in there? Any news about iQuery? None yet. When I know, you guys will know. I underestimated how hot it would be. As usual. Okay, so trying to get a mental map of where the AIs will be moving around in this mission. I talked about this the last time I streamed stuff about this particular map, but I definitely want to... I want to get some work done on the expansions, obviously, but this is a very low econ map overall. And that's fine. But I have to adapt the AI a little bit. Probably make them build less drones and less probes and less SCVs overall. As a result of the fact that there's, in some cases, very many resource fields, but not a whole lot of money in any of them, even if you don't ever mine from them, and you find it after they've all regenerated. Yeah, I'm envious of your weather, man. By far and away, I prefer the cold. Though that can get pretty stupid here too sometimes. So, this would be a contested expansion between Tyrion and Redwood. And Ultramarine's a more conservative player, AI personality overall. Whereas Tyrion is more likely to try to do some fast expo or like timing attack strategy with a lot of zealots before he gets access to legionnaires. It's actually kind of funny because legionnaires you'd think would be a more like the default, and zealots would be the scale up. But I kind of like that the paradigm is that you have to upgrade your structure to build legionnaires, which are they're a little bit weaker stat wise than zealots, but they only cost 1 supply. So it's pretty easy to spam them out in large macro maps. I know. When it rains here, it just gets more humid. You just sweat more. It's terrible. Somebody did the rain dance, dude. Okay, so we'll probably do something like attempts to take contested expo against Tyrion. Takes Rusty Pit Expo next. Yeah, that's scary if you're in an area where there's... Well, humidity is what can counteract fires, right? It's like the opposite. If it's really dry, that's where the fires can spread everywhere. So if you're in a dry area and you don't get rain too often, yeah, I'm sure that's it's a welcome sight when it does come. Like, that's what was happening in California. There's these gigantic brush fires. Looked like something out of an action movie. Like if Michael Bay directed The Inconvenient Truth by Michael Moore. 2 mics, by the way. Alright. Tyrion. So we have a rough game plan for this guy. We already know that Redwood likes to go Hydra Basilisk. Sort of like Connor. So we'll do that. There's really no expansion for Ultramarine to take early on, I just realized. Since I changed this up to be a more defensible position for Sienna. Fire bats were on it quick? You mean firefighters? Or... Ahmed in real life? They might actually try to take this early on, now that I think about it. I just came in to get my, like, the fire meds. Let's see. Yeah. It guarantees the citizens of America the right to bear arms.
Consider the possibility of life on other planets. And yet,
Ah, what's up, dude?
space, minds immeasurably superior to ours, regard this
It's Ivan, right?
as
How you doing, dude? But yeah, the Second Amendment just allows us to... It's like a sovereign right that makes sure that the government can't, Well, it's kind of unique, I guess, because, of course, a lot of those laws, especially since they're so old, were born out of being actually oppressed by the British government. Obviously not in the same way that some of the conventional oppression you would think of, but, like, you know. We certainly weren't a sovereign nation all the way back then. America wasn't a sovereign nation back then. So, that law was basically just like, hey, they tried to take our guns away before, so we gotta make sure that that doesn't happen in the future. This is back before we had, like, all of the death machines that we have right now. But yeah, we're working on the second Zerg mission right now. No, it's more so like, if the, like, obviously if the government deployed the armed forces and those armed forces were just following orders, Nuremberg style, then nobody would be able to do anything about that. But it's more so like localized tyranny, like, you know, corrupt politicians or cops or FBI or something like that, that people will find any use for it. It's a flimsy excuse, because obviously everybody has access to resources. The government has access to resources that nobody has as a civilian. But I think that it's important to offer some degree of, like, authority of the civilian to protect themselves. Like, allowing them to make that choice. And I also don't think that it's responsible for all of the, like, crimes and shit that people keep blaming it on. But I'm sure the acquisition process is a little too simple. That much I can imagine that that's the case anyways. I haven't really looked into it personally. I've never heard of it, actually. I don't know if anybody else has. Langrisser. Whatever that means. Yeah, I mean, people use the argument for guns to saying, like, oh, the fact that, you know, America has so many guns means... It basically is tantamount to saying, like, well, you can go out and buy drugs, and so you'll do drugs. Whereas, like, that's... access is a factor, but it's also, like, what else in your life is making you want to, you know, do drugs? It's, you have, like, some issue with your psychological state, your environment is not the best. Like, there's so many different factors, and they all... a lot of the people who are on that side of the argument will just say, like, nah, it's just the fact that you can get guns. Just ban guns. It's like, I don't think that's going to solve the problem, per se. I mean, it might curtail some issues, but it's not really going after the root issue. It's just a band-aid. What's up, Graham Benja? We're talking politics, suddenly. Mostly just gun laws in America. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, pretty much exactly what you just said, Alexander. It doesn't make any sense to disarm the populace that are law-abiding citizens if there are mass shooters and other such people fomenting. And, like, you want to be able to... I don't know. It's obviously a complicated situation, but if they think that they're going to get rid of all guns and then they're, by extension, get rid of all gun crime, especially when most of gun crimes are actually suicides, like, they're just not paying attention, I feel like. Or they latched on to a very specific answer to a very complex problem. So, Grand Benja, since you just got here, maybe you can answer Ivan's question. He was asking if anybody had played the Langrisser games. I've never heard of them, but maybe you have. Alright, so... now that I've CN'd myself... B-U-B, actually. Yeah. Well, just the idea that... well, it's sort of like... I mean, the same kind of thing happened with the war on drugs here in America. I feel like there's a pretty strong corollary there. Where if you look at it, like, what does it mean that we've tried to combat the flow of drugs, and we failed. But even if we had, like, we've criminalized it, we've made it even more punishing for people who do drugs and get caught, or get caught selling them, or whatever. Like, we've made those laws incredibly punishing for those people. And yet, surprise, surprise, drug crimes are still, like, actually at all-time highs. Like, you'd think somebody would have noticed that our attempts were completely unsuccessful. I mean, I laugh just because of how absurd it is. I'm not sitting here hoping that happens, obviously, but it's just crazy to me that they don't, like, their vested interest would theoretically be the improvement of life for everybody. And if that's the case, then you gotta look a little closer at what's happening, in my opinion. And try and figure out, like, what are you not seeing? Because if you had the answer, then it would have been implemented, and we would have seen it. You know what I mean? So, like, at least in the case of drugs, it seems like an open and shut case to me that you wouldn't want to have a very binary answer in that case. But I guess, you know, easy answers are the ones that sell or whatever. Because then you get to feel superior, like, you guys didn't even consider this very simple solution. Or whatever. Okay. So what are the Langrisser games about anyways? Maybe I should look them up at some point. And more on the topic of the stream, I have to ask you, Grambenja, how do you feel about these asteroid changes that I've wound up making? For fading, like adding some depth and roundedness to the tiles. It took me a long time to put them all together, but I feel like it feels a little bit more appropriate. I probably should add a little bit more rockiness to the bases or something, but I feel like it looks a little bit more appropriate for something like an asteroid. And there's still a couple of things that I'd like to update with regards to them, but I feel like it serves its purpose.
The whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me!
Cool. I wanted to make it fit into the environment a little bit more than what it was doing before. Oops. Still a couple of tile edits that I have to do outside of that, like making a blend of this in Photoshop so that it doesn't have those tiling effects, similar to what I did here. And I have to smooth out the edges of these so that they look like they're not just floating in the sky. Like, basically, that was the same thing that was happening to this dirt cliff. As though you would see these catwalk things and the dirt things, and they'd just be standing there, basically, looking like they were just floating. Whereas now they have a little bit more depth associated with them, and it looks a little bit more like they're like actually going, like curving into themselves. Like it's a little bit more smooth on the bottom. I have to find out what unit I replaced this one with. I'm looking for the mutation fit, which is unused or This will also be the first mission where you'll be able to use the new hero mechanic for the Zerg. Yeah, well, what I understand that most people are like willing to ignore graphical issues or whatever. It's just my own design philosophy on that is if I'm going to include it as a like if I'm going to add it and then move it into the game and make it take up some space, it has to function well for gameplay purposes, of course. But it also has to fit. It has to look good. Because then it's not accomplishing its objective if it looks bad. Because the objective is to provide something that is not only functional from a gameplay perspective, but also accomplishes more than what I could have done with the base tile set. And that would be like some environmental storytelling or something. And if people's first thought in it is it looks really cool and new, then that's at least a positive thought that can then segue into them thinking, oh, and now I can think of it like an asteroid or think of it like a dirt base or something. And that's better than them thinking, wow, that looks like shit, that doesn't fit. You know what I mean? So I'm aware it's probably going to take some people aback when they first see it, but that's okay. As long as it doesn't look terrible. As long as it looks like it looks like what it's meant to be. That's what matters. I'm pretty happy with how the level design overall has gone for Hydra, though. Like, ever since I had a little bit of a struggle with the first couple of maps, but it's... Even though this was like a bit of a learning experience because I hadn't made anything in space platform in a long time, it's still really cool to see how this all came together. Because there's like so many different ways that you can link up and move your forces around. And it's kind of similar to the other Hydra maps in that effect, but it feels different enough that it feels like it'll be a nice change of pace in that respect. Without obviously being like a gimmick or whatever. Like, you're not forced into air units because the map is just such a labyrinth that you can't get ground units through. So it's not too far to an extreme, in my opinion. And even if it is, that'll show in testing and I can curtail that. Well, I appreciate that. I don't know if you would like to live in an environment where there's Protoss, Zerg, and some Confederate stragglers all vying for supremacy. Balefal and I were having a chat about some of the ways that you could justify the story of why the platforms look the way that they do. And one of the things that he mentioned is that if you imagine like a spaceport, and it's meant to be like for trading, maybe it starts off as being really small, but as business grows, money is then, you know, changes hands and they start building more, like they start adding on to the facility. And that's where I got the idea to like connect bits of the platform to each other, like in this case, where you can see like, you know, eventually I'll probably make a custom bridge that looks a little bit more like utilitarian as opposed to something that is clearly meant to be a bridge. Like in this case, it's just to bind the platforms together, and there is like a walkway across as well, but it hasn't yet been fully finished or something. Stuff like that I think is kind of cool because you get the idea that they were you know, they were latching these platforms together. And then you have this catwalk idea that I came up with where I moved catwalk into space instead of having it be on the platform. And it's used as like an access way between platforms that are otherwise like too arduous to connect. Because catwalk looks a little bit cheaper to construct than the platform itself, so I liked the idea that they just sort of... They kind of have to scrap cobble them together, and these catwalks are almost like highways between a space network of... like a space platform. It doesn't account for everything, like obviously there doesn't appear to be any reason for the Rusty Pit to be here, or for any of these elements to be exactly where they are, but broad spectrum, looking at the overall construction of the platform, I feel like it justifies part of the way that things are oriented anyway. I don't know exactly how I'll communicate that through dialogue, but hopefully the impression is that these were connected together somewhat hastily and done so with the intent to seal them up and add like a new... It's almost like expanding your house or like adding a new room to your house. It's sort of like that, but on a much larger scale. Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm going to be working on some infested platform assets at some point where it's very clearly that it was settled by the Zerg. That'll be important for a lot of things down the line, but especially in like Omega, where there's meant to be like it's meant to be Kerrigan's infested space platform. Like she should have her own doodads and stuff there. You know, get a Zerg interior decorator. Alright, so what did I put in here anyways? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Alright. I don't know if you've checked out the first Hydra Zerg mission yet. There are still some bugs associated with the systems that we've got in the background, but some of the new units are present and accounted for. Connor's been having a very fun time building Hydra Basilisk combos and just annihilating everybody. Swarm has a few new toys. I don't think we need a layer that early per se. This is also going to be a bit of an experiment because one very consistent issue with this, with the Zerg so far, have been the fact that we have, we never really see the Zerg properly outfitting the what's it called? You never see the Zerg outfitting their bases with the guards that I request. And so what I'm going to try to do is set the guard requests to, like, obscene values, where it's just absolutely ridiculous, and nobody would ever... Like, theoretically, there would be no reason for anybody to use that amount of priority for guards. And hopefully that will make them train units, because oftentimes they'll build everything required, and they'll even have some money left over, but they never spend it on units, even if the units are at a higher priority than the buildings. I have a way around that, other than increasing the guard priority, so if that doesn't work, I still have another ace up my sleeve that I know works, but just a little bit more annoying and time-consuming to set up. So, let's see if we need anything in particular added to the top here. Oh yeah, I was gonna add this. Expand. Okay. And what else do we got here? I guess it would be upgrade. And then guard. Skill. Oh yeah, we're gonna need a player need block up here as well. else we got? Next. Cool. Why are you dying internally, UED Commander? What happened? Did you find out you were a map? Gary? Why? What even is that? I don't get it. Welcome back. Yeah, but I don't even know who Gary is. I need more context. Oh! They're making him a main character. Cool. I'm sure a lot of people will be really happy about that, you know. All of those purists that really loved the anime storyline that Starcraft 2 personified are really going to be into the even more anime. Well, they're not even making any more Starcraft games, so what's the point? Anybody who reads comics about Starcraft really is wasting their time anyway. Let's just do this. What's up, Baylitha? What a disaster. Okay. Okay. We're getting somewhere, maybe. I thought I deleted that. Whatever. All right, well, we've got to scrub Gary from our heads here. I hope this music will help. Because you're gonna get metaphysical pretty soon. And while you do that, I will be right back. Gotta pee.
First thing that I noticed was the intensification of the colours in the environment. Which is another way of saying, I think, the increased acuteness of perceptual data. Then time also seemed to slow down.
Alright, we are back. You are playing StarCraft 2. Should you shoot yourself in the head or shoot your computer in the head? That's the age-old question. I think your computer did nothing wrong. You're the one who put it on there, so you pay. You hear me? You pay! You will pay for this. Oh man, looks like it's looking good, UED Commander. I hope they make a UED map out of that. Oh man. What a Russian. Computer was complicit? I think it was too young and impressionable. Just saying. Just to wait buildings. Okay. Dude, this guy means business. You better watch the fuck out. Next year? I have no idea when the elections are. Scheduled for Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020. So yeah, it's gonna be a while. Apparently the old governor of my state is also running for Republican. But I thought that it wasn't even possible for somebody who may pay more attention to this than myself will probably know the answer, but I was pretty sure it wasn't feasible to run if the sitting president is of your party. Like, if the sitting president was a Democrat, I didn't think that another Democrat candidate could even do, like, elections. I didn't even think that there were any debates or anything like that. I think you can just turn all that off, can't you? The autocorrect stuff? Okay. Relax. Yeah, yeah. I'm pretty sure you can just turn off autocorrect entirely. Oh, wait. Suggestions. I'm pretty sure you can turn that off, too. Is your phone an Android, or is it a iPhone, or... If it's an Android, I can help you out. Or at least I can look at what I have set it to mine. Because when I'm swiping to type, I always swipe to type because it's faster. Let me see my keyboard settings. Because maybe it'll be similar on yours. If I can even find my keyboard settings, fuck. I have to start typing something. There we go. Nice. So I've turned off predictive text and auto capitalize and auto punctuate. And then I have auto spell check off. And then I have auto spacing off as well, but I've never seen that but turned on by default actually, besides this phone. So I usually don't have to turn that off. But that's all in keyboard settings. Let's see. Yeah, that should be everything. It's like, I think it's under smart typing. I basically just turned all of those things off and set it to swipe. Hopefully that ends up being useful. Reminds me, I put my phone on vibrate as well. Come in. Now I see why I named these with like RW in front of them, so that when I was writing the upgrade command, it didn't autocorrect them. Oh, fuck. Is that why you were curious about the Second Amendment and shit? I guess the problem really is that everybody... So, most people on the side of the argument that says we should ban guns they don't bother to consider beyond what banning guns would do. And even in that context, they don't really think about everything that would happen, like all of the possible issues that could occur as a result of that, right? But they rally around that because they think that that's a cure-all. Or at the very least, a first step that we should be taking. And then the people on the other side of the argument are like, well, no, don't ban guns. And, like, both of them end up becoming stratified across really like binary elements where either you do or don't ban guns, or you do or don't like do any other things, sort of like, you know, further criminalizing drugs or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it's very like I said, binary. I don't know. That's the best way I can think about it. There's really not much room for discussion. Like, people on the side of the gun argument, a lot of the times I've seen them even refuse to acknowledge a gun problem. And then people on the side of the other side of the coin, they almost refuse to acknowledge that maybe the legality of guns isn't the source of the problem. You know, so like both of them are not, like, neither of those sides tend to acknowledge the flaws of their position, which is how you would strengthen them in the first place. So they just are content to sort of plug their ears, and I don't know what that's going to accomplish, obviously, but I think that's part of the reason why people are so strung up about stuff, is that they, like, it's just been a constant back and forth of, like, you're wrong, no, you're wrong, and nobody's gotten anywhere. Yeah, it's a stalemate, so... Is it 45 or 46? Oh, I don't know if Hydra open. It's 45 for Zerg. What's next? Hydra. I think after I finish the upgrade stuff, I'll do the base layouts for the main base and place the guards, and then I might figure out what other shit I want to do as well. Like, there probably should be a base layout and custom thread for the island expansion, since it's so small. I think all of the island expansions are going to be like that, the 3 that we have. I think that's going to need one. I don't know. Maybe it won't be that big of a deal, actually, but we'll see. Most of the military YouTubers? That's funny. Not something you would expect, presumably. Getting lost in tiling again. Okay. Perfect. Even better. Okay. So, what was I in the middle of doing? Upgrades. Oh yeah, forgot about that. Actually, I should probably just copy the Spire one from here. So I thought that that one worked out okay. So, let's do the base layouts now. Oh, we're gonna have to make a new map. Let's save this as... Oh. I found out why some of the units weren't being hallucinated, or weren't able to be hallucinated. As it turns out, that's just because they were, it was one of those things where they, if the unit was placed in an older version of the game, or an older version of the editor, which is precisely what happened here, because I'm editing the original map. That would be a problem, naturally. Alright. Let's see if I, Oh, wow. Hold on. None of these can be hallucinated. I have to replace them all. No, it's just... I mean, it's... He probably could, theoretically, but... It seems like a... bit of a waste of time. When all I need to do that, fix it, is what I'm doing right now. 6,000. Okay, it looks like the probes can be hallucinated just fine. Obviously all the Terran stuff will be, because there was no Terran shit on this entire map. Earlier. Okay. Simple enough. Alright, nice. Oh. Ooh! Alright, so I'm thinking we have 6 colonies. 2 of them are pre-placed for this player. So we'll do like 2. Well, we're at 4 right now. Okay. And we know that there's going to be 2 of them to be spores, so we'll do this is sunken into 3, 4. I guess it doesn't really make any sense to have more than one of them be a spore colony in the current setup. Yes. They exist. They are a thing. So what are you up to, Bailethal? Anything fun and exciting? Yeah, I know what you mean, man. All right. Let's proper. Alright, now that's a nice way to indicate which colony turns into what. Oh, I forgot to turn it on. What's up, Keon?
Rest in pizza, Tony! Hey, man.
Hi. Alright, so setting up the base layout here. What do we need next? Evo chambers and Hydra dens. Oh yeah, well the AI in that is still pretty busted, so... Well... Yeah, it's not quite, feature complete, we'll say. Yeah, I'm just saying it's not representative of the final cut, obviously, or anywhere even close to it. If it weren't for that supply bug with the first Zerg mission, I would say that's the most final map so far, but unfortunately we're no closer to understanding that one. Alright, where the fuck am I gonna stick this? Not a real person says hello! Whoa! Hello, fake person. How's it going, dude? It's probably a better place for this, actually. Well, the even bigger problem than that, Bailiff, is it can go over and then you can't build anything. So it's even worse. It can have an overflow issue. Alright, Hydra done. Sure, that's a fine placement for that. You gotta be economical with your building placements here. With your Zerg here.
Zerg here.
There's gotta be a better position for this. I guess it'll have to be right there. We'll be deploying the aberrants in this map. Be a nice, nice demo of their potential. I guess right there. I don't want to crowd the players' base too much, but that's kind of inevitable in a context like this. Alright, we'll move him back over here. Move the queen nest on that side. And I think we can keep that hatchery there. Alright, so let's play some guards. I forget what guards I left myself. Oh wait, no, I need that. I actually should probably get the coordinates for this stuff. Still gotta get that new keyboard at some point. Probably my next purchase, actually. That is you, actually. Okay. Now we can play some guards. I was also thinking about having another expansion over in the top left over here, but I feel like if the player builds stuff there, it's probably to defend against the attacks on the Chrysalis, so I wouldn't want to incentivize players to play super turtley. Whereas, like, if you push out here, this is a more vulnerable position, but it accomplishes the same goal if you can hold it. So I feel like that's probably a better approach. I don't want to condition players into wrong think, wrong play. What got me into map creating? Mostly just the fact that I wanted to play stuff that nobody was making, and I didn't want to wait for somebody to make it, so I just started trying to make it myself. It was, I was not always successful at, making what I wanted to make, we'll say, but I managed. Do I have that many? Put one there, then. Right here. So, Kian, if you're still there, what did your Justin think of the Vorvaling and the... Oh, I guess you guys didn't see the Basilisk yet, right? I can only imagine what his thoughts were. So what did we do? We did these two, and those two. Oh, okay. Ah, he's the guy that was reticent to join the 116-1 master race based on pillar boxing. Yeah, that's very far outside of my realm of expertise, unfortunately. So, no clue when that will be something I can fix, or if that's something I can fix at all. No, it's not a big deal, but it is something that I would like to improve if it's at all possible. Well, if you play it in full screen, then you don't have to suffer it. I don't get it in full screen when... I mean, I don't get it at all because I play in windowed mode and... it's fine. As you can see. The whole screen is used here. Oh yeah, it's something that I had to get used to, but I don't... if I run it in full screen, I don't have to look at pillar box anyway, so... I don't think most people have to suffer that. If they do, they're not configured. Their brain isn't configured. It's been crushed. Oh.
Guys, I can play! Holy shit!
No, you can't. It's not ready. It's not even close.
Ooh, taste my rod, Tony!
Banned. Yeah, that's a more egregious issue, I think, that they made sure that Remastered has black bars no matter what you fucking do. That is sick. Well, if you use the remaster, like if you use the skin pack, it doesn't. But you get pillar boxed if you want to use standard definition graphics. Even if you didn't get pillar boxed when running 1.16.1. Well, yeah, because some people prefer to use pillar boxing. Like, a lot of the pros use pillar boxing. It's just easier to focus on things. I mean, pretty much... The thing is, like... Every pro that uses pillar boxing is also using the standard definition graphics. Some pros that are coming up that were not super... Like, they weren't already ingrained into them to look at the 161 graphics, are using the remaster ones because it gives them a wider field of vision, and they feel like that gives them an advantage. But that's how most pros are used to playing, is with a smaller field of vision. And they don't want to look at the remastered graphics just so that they can have a wider field of vision. In some cases, they don't want a wider field of vision at all. So, of course, they're not going to use the remastered graphics in that sense, and even if they did want to, they would just still take the pillar box option. Yeah. Well, that goes without saying. It's like Starcraft 2 pros are always playing on the lowest settings. Because they need that readability. Yeah. That's really depressing. Alright, let's see if we can plug in our expansions here. Wow! That's a loud ass fucking lawnmower weed cutter thing, whatever that is. Loud as fuck. In Starcraft 2? That was not there to begin with, that's for sure. I just can't believe how much of a how much of a shit show that game is, man. Holy moly. Alright, let me just copy this skeleton over and then we'll see what I need to fill in here. Okay. No, yeah, but I mean, when I played it, which is like many, many years ago, it was not there. Well, don't play remastered, because you will there. Have fun getting, bossed around, if you know what I mean.
Zerg? Here? Well, Commander, I'll be seeing you.
Bye! Well, you're not alone, that's for sure. I don't even know if the technology was out there, to be honest. But they certainly didn't make Starcraft using widescreen shit. They were using those CRT things. So they didn't have any contingency plans for it. That's, the reason why it works is because of, compatibility tools and stuff. Actually, let me take a look. So, like, for my Starcraft EXE, I'm not using a shortcut, and in compatibility, I don't even have anything ticked. And if I were to disable CNC draw, I would be launching the game, and it would just be in full screen naturally. No, I know, but like the full screen CRTs were way more common. I think widescreen. I mean, it was probably one of those cases, sort of like how 4K or 240 hertz monitors are like dropping in price now because the technology is getting cheaper. Like, if you were gonna opt into a widescreen CRT, you were probably paying more money for it than if you would just paid for a normal one. If I had to guess. Maybe Starcraft had more widescreen CRTs, though, if that was the case with Doom. Because, well, Doom was obviously way later. I mean, way earlier. English language. Oh yeah, I mean, even Red Alert 2 I couldn't get to work out of the box. I had to run that in a VM. And like, if you think about all of the different compatibility tools you have to go through for any old game, from like, and by old I mean like, I'm actually kind of surprised that even Warcraft 3 runs out of the box for that matter. Like the original 2002 or 2003 for Frozen Throne install. But like games from that era don't play nice with modern OSs. So it is pretty surprising. Ow. Shocking as that may be, I believe it to be true in this case. Yeah. For sure. Wow, holy fuck. I shouldn't have gone running without stretching, man. Holy shit. Do not recommend. I gotta figure out a better system for doing the expansions that are meant to be at a very specific location. Like the order system that I had. Basically what I have is an AI that wants to expand to a certain location in a certain order. So they'll take their natural, then they'll take their third, and if their natural is destroyed but their third is up, they won't go on to their fourth, they will take their natural again. Stuff like that. Where they always have a system of priorities. So I'm hopeful that I'm able to achieve something to that effect in a simpler way than I was before. Because what I was doing it before was very, like, patchwork. The code that I was putting together was pretty shit in that respect. So we had, like, let's take a look. I didn't make the system with it in mind. So I had to, like, patchwork it in after the fact. So I guess what I would do in this case, right, is I would do something like exactly 0 buildings to Best mission in Starcraft 1? Probably to chain the or to slay the beast. But even that's not very fair. Like, none of it's particularly great, I'll say. I'm gonna have to copy and paste all of these locations pretty soon. I guess that would be their third, and this is their fourth. You're not doing anything with what you've shown me? What happened? What? Wow. Oh, okay. How come you decided against working on it anymore? Or are you just not going to be working on Brood War stuff in general? Ah. Any particular reasoning behind that? Yeah, that was not gonna happen mentally. Okay, so here is done. Okay, cool. So this seems like a better system to me anyway. Thankfully facilitated by the work that I had already done. Okay, so set free ID. Put this to 100.
Hey, man.
What's up, Liberty? How you doing, dude? Yeah, there was an option that I had not ticked. I had ticked it previously, but it got unticked somehow. And it really ticked me off. It's called like enable DVR or something. Okay. Should be plenty of space here. So what else is there anyway? Besides guards. I gotta do this for this base, and the back island. Would be kind of funny if when they do the back island, their main base gets like they build more shit at their main or something. That would be what would happen if I didn't handle it appropriately. You just see them building like 3 extra hatcheries in random locations. Like inside your base, probably. Illegal moves. Get them out of here. Oops. Okay. Hey, the fuck? That's what I thought. You can't sneak one past me like that. By the way, guys, I was thinking for the blend of Catwalk for a high dirt or a high platform blend, so you would have it blend with like currently there would have to be like a backwards ramp or something for that, and I don't want that to be the case. So instead, I'm gonna make a bridge at some point that'll bridge between Catwalk. But I figured I could probably do something like this, right? And just do it like blend these bits together, and then use this blended with high platform, and maybe adjusted so that it didn't look like it was an incline, to use that as like the end piece, basically. So it'll take some blending and some messing around with, but I think that that's probably the best way to do it, as opposed to trying to do some really complicated junk. Okay. Did I do anything crazy with the... No, I didn't. Okay. Guess I have to start placing guards again. Although I gotta tell you, the basilisks are gonna be really, really useful against Tyrion, so I think Redwood should probably win, compositionally speaking. The X factor is the Terrans, because they tend to prioritize just claiming their own territory, basically. Like, that's what I have in mind for them. And they will be sending out attacks, but at first it'll just be like recon shit, like just them just trying to figure out what's happening. Whereas like the Protoss kind of know what's going on, because you arrived on their on a platform that they had control over. So they're in a similar boat to you. The Terrans are in a similar boat to you, where you don't really know what the hell is happening. So you got to scout around to find out where the enemies are and where so and so is, like where the resources are. So they're going to be moving around with like Marines and stuff, just looking around for stuff. Whereas the Protoss are going to be a little bit more calculated, I guess. So if the Terrans happen to, like, well, if they happen upon a bunch of enemies, like a bunch of Protoss, then that could upset the balance. Just like if they happen upon you, you might suddenly be fucked. Or like have to respond to that and be a little bit less aggressive in the early game. And thus, it gets a little bit harder to manage with the Protoss because of the fact that they, you know, got a little bit of a breather as a result of the Terran's influence. So that'd be a nice little X factor that feels like a natural randomizer as opposed to it being some sort of, you know, more of a negative thing, I guess. Like, you're not going to feel like you were cheated out of a run from it, because that's something that you could have scouted, you could have accounted for that in a different way. Like, hopefully that's the impression people get anyways, because I don't want people to feel like they were fucked over by RNG. It's more so that they didn't scout ahead and understand that that was a potentiality of the situation. It's a little bit of a different paradigm, I guess. But hopefully it ends up going over well enough with the people who play it. Hello, Cutalisk. Nice name. Project Hydra is a large-scale overhaul. Hold on, I have this written down somewhere. A comprehensive overhaul of the official Starcraft campaigns for version 1.16.1. So it's not compatible with Remastered, but it is co-op supported, so you can play with yourself or with a second human player. And it features completely remade maps, completely remade AI, a whole bunch of new units, new upgrades, and new characters, new voice acting. Basically, it is something a little bit closer to a remaster of the original campaigns, what that would look like in an ideal world, where we get a bunch of new stuff, a bunch of new toys, and all that. And the maps are much harder, much more about playing good RTS, good StarCraft. Like, people who are good at the game will be more rewarded. Whereas previously, if you were too good, you just destroyed the campaign, and if you were too bad, you got destroyed by it. Now, even if you're not as good enough to win, you'll still feel like you have a fighting chance, and still feel like you can improve in specific areas. It'll feel fair, a little bit more fair, I guess, is like a nice way to describe it. So that's a rundown. Right now I'm setting up the AI ally, or which gets replaced by the second human player if you play two-player co-op. But this is the second Zerg mission. Glad to hear it. Yeah, it's probably the largest scale project that I've ever worked on, I think without a doubt. I've got this giant page document that goes over all of the changes. Just scrolling through it should be enough to see that it's pretty huge. But this is all the stuff. This is fully, this is public, this document here. If you go to my channel name, .wikidot.com, you'll eventually find it. So stuff like that. It details all the new units and the changes to gameplay. If you've ever played Command & Conquer, the resource system has been changed up. I appreciate the follow. The resource system has been changed up in a little bit, where they don't deplete. The minerals stay on the field forever, so they're permanent fixtures. And they regenerate if they're not being mined. So if you wipe a base, and then you wait a little bit before you take it yourself, you'll have more resources. So stuff like that makes the battlefields a little bit more permanent. And you'll have, it adds a little bit more value to it, I think, to the overall battlefield. So map control's a little bit more important, that sort of thing. So I did post the remastered version back when I was still developing it for Remastered on Reddit. That version doesn't have any of these, large-scale gameplay changes. It was much more about, just making a harder version of the original campaigns and updating the maps and making it available for two-player co-op. But I've since moved over to 161, and I had a bunch of ideas for brand new units and stuff, and I wanted to make those happen with regards to this version of it, so... A version of it was posted and is still public. It's for the Terran campaign, but it's very different than this one. I feel like it's much... I would say this one is much better, but it's also, it's very, very different. I'm doing all of the map design myself. Some people on my Discord server are helping out with testing, and I'm doing most of the artwork myself, although a lot of the custom ramps were made by Darkened Fantasies, who's the resident artist. And so he's going to be making some icons later on, assuming he's still good for that. I've done all of the changes to the space platform tile set myself so far. I did all of the dirt cliff depth thing here that you can see. It's it looks a little bit more like it's rounded than just a cliff floating in space. So you'll see stuff like that added to the tile sets. I did the bridges. Some of the stuff isn't final. I'm still going to be working on it. I did the catwalk. As you can see, we don't have a backwards ramp yet, so I'm just using random debug tiles, basically. A lot of the coding is being done by a Russian man named Iquare, that's his username. And he's out trying to get his PC repaired, so until that's back in action, we're a little bit slower on fixing some bugs and implementing new mechanics. But he's already done a fair bit of work for the project. And, made some more tools for the AI and stuff. So I'm writing all of the AI and doing everything that you see in the maps. Everything that is map-specific is done by me, besides some of the artwork. But all of the, the programming for the units, that's most of the done by Iquare. And I'm going to probably be doing most of the voice acting. I'm going to try to see if I can get some people to pitch in for that. Just because it's sometimes, even though I can be very, very flexible with my voice, sometimes it's very obvious that it's the same guy doing 12 voices or whatever. And for a project that's as expansive as Hydra is, you probably don't want that. So I'll be doing a lot of unit responses for units because those are easier to do. But for revoicing main characters, I can do a pretty good Phoenix impression. I can do an okay Alderis impression. There's certain characters that I can do. I've done a pretty good Zaz one. But trying to do it for everything, I'm definitely going to need some help with that. So that'll be one area where I'm going to be changing stuff up. And Balethal, who's actually in the chat right now, I think, he might be doing some extra music for us if he ends up being able to strike a chord, we'll say. But other than that, yeah, the vast majority of it started off as just me doing stuff that I felt like me working on projects, and people got interested in playing them and testing the newer versions. That's where we are now, so it's definitely a labor of love. I don't get any money for it. I get some donations here and there, which is very nice, but I don't make a living off of it or anything. And I have other projects in the pipe as well. I'm working on some single player content that's purely single player. There's no optional co-op, but those are a little bit more linear in a sense. Hydra is more about every time you play a single map, there's a chance that something will be different. I was just talking before you came in about the Terrans that I've added to the second Zerg mission, and how they're coming in and they don't really know what's happening, they're arriving basically the same way that the player is arriving, where they're not going to really know what the map layout is, where the enemies are, whereas the Protoss that are here are going to be more like, well, we saw the Zerg and the Terrans arrive, so we know where they are, and they'll have a little bit more map knowledge, you could say. And so the Protoss will be a little bit more calculated with their efforts, whereas the Terrans are going to be like, just trying to scout around and see what's up. And so them scouting around and them attacking with small forces are going to be a little bit more randomized, and that's going to be a bit more of an X factor. So like stuff like that is in every mission. There's always going to be something that's going to have a little bit of variance. You know, I really like free-for-alls. I really like large-scale maps that have a lot of expansions where you can lose your main base and rebuild it somewhere else and still find a way to win. And that's usually not possible in StarCraft maps, let alone campaign missions. So that was like one of the reasons why I made the resource system changes, one of the reasons why I'm adding in so many new AI, because I want the ability to have like a 2v2v1, which is what this map is. The first Zerg mission is a 3v2v1, where you have Zaz helping you, and then the 2 players, and then you've got 2 Terrans, and then a Protoss. And so you get this free-for-all feeling to the map, where there's a lot of shit going on. So yeah, there's all sorts of different stuff. Oh, I appreciate that. I think there's a Discord link in the Mixer description. That'll take you to my channel, and or my Discord server. And in that server, there's a channel for this project specifically, where we discuss all sorts of stuff and organize testing, and people post playthrough videos or replays or whatever of them playing the missions. And so you can actually download what we have available right now, which is just the first Zerg mission, because I'm in the process of taking down and updating the Terran missions and the first Protoss map, which are otherwise finished, but they just need some bugs fixed. I can't promise that it'll be a very stable experience, but you can at least see what I'm working with right now, and then when I have a more stable version, I usually post and let people know, like, hey, here's an updated version of the map that should be less buggy and much more stable. So, oh, I hear you. Well, happy to have you anyways, even if you just end up watching and waiting for the project to see a proper release. Oh shit. That's not good. Sorry guys, a screw came loose in my chair. I felt something bash against the back of my leg and I was like, what was that? I thought I had like a muscle spasm or something in my ankle. I was like, what? So I gotta do some repairs. The world is falling apart around me. Good thing I have a screwdriver handy. Screw that one back into place. I've had this chair for 2-3 years now. It's a gaming chair, a racing chair or whatever. So, it's definitely got some wear and tear on it. So pardon me while I fix some of these issues. Just tighten all of them while I'm down here anyway. Three out of 4 have been tightened. We could get an objective update. Tighten 10 more screws. Okay. Alright, that's done. And the music is paused because YouTube likes to do that. Thanks, YouTube. There we go. Okay. No, this is some electronic music. I just have a bunch of. I have a massive playlist in my channel, 56 mixes that people have made. So I linked that in the YouTube side of things, but that's just a bunch of music. Oh yeah, and don't worry about the questions. I'm happy to answer them. It's part of the reason why I stream while I'm working on this, is to occasionally indoctrinate more individuals to playing RTS games, which is, we'll say it's not always successful, but trying to make my best argument for that, because I really like RTS. But outside of that, it's to engage with the community and stuff. So happy to do that. I do still play Brood War. I don't play the remaster, so I can't really play ladder because everybody on ICAP is like fucking A+ or whatever. Like they're just like old school Koreans that don't want to play on the remaster either, or they're Russians. Either way, I get my ass handed to me. But I've watched a lot of professional games and stuff where possible. Yeah, if you want to hear some of Balathal's music, I can play some of Balathal's music. This man has made basically like the musical version of a YouTube poop, based around a bunch of my, just a bunch of stuff that I've said down the years. Where is it? I gotta find it. My music, yeah. It's, Balathal's music is in my music folder. Makes a lot of sense. That's just how I organize stuff. This is his best track. Here you go. And I'll go to the bathroom while this is playing. So.
Rest in pizza, Tony.
Bing, 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 bong, bing, 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 bong. I won! Give me fucking money! Donate me on Patreon! Fucking bong!
Aggressive mode.
Get me out! Bong.
Then give me your heart.
Bong. Send me home! Bong. Now I have your heart. Bong. What the fuck is happening? Oh no! Oh no! XD! Get me out!
Then give me your heart.
Send me home! Now I have your heart. Get me out!
Then give me your heart.
Send me home! Now I have your heart. And no! Delete that! You fucking simulation! You'll never take me away! I killed all the crows in my neighborhood! You'll never get me! Bing, 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 bong. Your brain is completely destroyed. Oh, okay, bye. Oh, I came back at the perfect fucking time. Holy moly. That lasted just as long as it took me to use the bathroom. Now, if that's not a musical intermission, I don't know what is. Let me find his... Actually, what should I show them from the Toddborn OST, Balethal? Give me a song name. I have not yet been able to make a mod worthy of that song, unfortunately. Birth of Todd, you got it, dude. Where's that? Here we go. This is the most up-to-date one. So this is an actual song. That one is a pretty good one, though, I have to admit. This is a title track for another song, or another project. Pretty good track, I think. Works out. I gotta turn replay off, though. That project is pretty psychotic, though. The project that this is for replaces Terrans and Zerg with police and anime. And the idea is that anime has come from another dimension to poison our world, and the police must arrest them all. It's a very zany premise. It's a very, very silly project. But that's the title track for that, so there you go. You've heard some of Beothal's music, you heard the premise of some of my stuff. You can, something to write home about, I suppose. Alright. Good times, yeah. So at this point, I'm just trying to make sure that the way that I'm setting up these AI's bases makes sense for their personalities. So if you do decide to play this solo, your ally is a Hydralisk fanatic. He really likes to build Hydralisks, and the updated form of the Hydralisk, the Basilisk, which you morph to like you would morph to a Lurker. The Basilisk is more like an artillery unit, but it deals concussive damage, so it's not super effective against most buildings, but when against Protoss, everything deals full damage to shields. So actually, considering they probably outrange photon cannons, these things would be pretty nasty to fight against as Protoss. And so, yeah. They're also really, really decent at dealing with Zealots and High Templar and stuff. Eventually I'll have a custom sprite for them, as opposed to just this recolor, but... Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, all of the custom player colors have been made by either, the vast majority of them were made by DF, Darkened Fantasies, same guy who made the ramps and stuff. And then a few of them were made by Beothal, and even less were made by me, myself, but you'll get you'll see like, you know, here, let me open up the other map. So like, for example, you'll have this base, where you've got the Zealots with the golden blades, those are a different Zealot unit, but you've got the Protoss here, that's a different color than normal. In fact, I don't think there's a single normal color in this entire map. Yeah, all of them are custom, actually. So... Since you're going to be producing more units in Hydra than you would in normal games, I ended up increasing the maximum supply to 300. I'm not actually sure if that will be enough, though. For some of the larger maps, you'll see, you'll probably see people hitting that cap pretty soon, actually. It's like pretty early on, so I wonder if that'll even be feasible. It's gonna be pretty scary when you see, when you see the AI rolling through your base with like 300 supply units. It's gonna be psycho. Obviously, it won't really be that many. Like, the other part of the supply increase was that you wanted to have like 5 bases simultaneously sometimes, so having enough workers to sustain that is like, even if you undercut the amount that you would need per base, you're probably talking about like, you know, 15, 20 workers per base. Even at the low estimate, that's a lot for 5, 6 bases at a time. So of course I needed to increase the supply cap on those grounds as well. But we'll see how far that goes. There's still quite a ways away before we get to any of those later maps. Yeah, 60 would be like the absolute max. Maybe as Zerg you can probably go over that a little bit. But even then, I think you are actually... Usually you cut drones at each expansion. You don't have like a full drone count because you have so many bases. Yeah, it affords you to be able to go a little bit over that. The fact that the resources don't deplete either is another important component of that. I wound up removing the RNG from the cover system and the height differences as well. Now you just get +1 armor versus attacks. Like, you deal attacks up a cliff deal 1 less damage, but they always connect. So it's like having a free +1 armor, which is not as crazy as 50% chance to miss, but it's still some benefit. The more important benefit is if you're up above ground, you get +1 range over enemies that are on low ground. So siege tanks now really, really love that height difference, more so than they take less damage. They actually can attack from much, like, a +1 range. Or in the example of, like, over here, because, like, say you have a Hydralisk over here on the high ground, it's actually getting +2 range versus units that are on the Rusty Pit, because that's technically low ground. So, like, depending on how I lay the maps out, you're going to see people trying to abuse that a lot more. So I hope that stuff like that will be... Well, I hope that it'll end up going over pretty well. With this little cliff here, I was planning on making one of the new Protoss units is the Hierophant, and it deals concussive damage, but it also slows units when the unit moves away from them. And so the idea is that you sort of whittle them down while kiting back, and then when they start to retreat, they're slowed from retreating. It, like, forces the player to have to commit or they lose their units. If you're using the micro well. But the fact that they're also slowing them means if they're harassing a unit, like workers can not get away from them at all. So the idea that you would put a couple of those on this cliff, you're dealing like 12 concussive damage plus upgrades to their workers. Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for checking us out. But the Hierophant worker interaction will be nice. I mean, even Hierophants stationed up here would be pretty annoying. It's one of the reasons why I wound up adding that ramp, is because otherwise I don't think that the Zerg players have an answer to getting harassed like that. Okay, so we were in the middle of plugging in the expansions for this. Ah, Hydra funds. Not those. Hydra plant. Oh yeah, I gotta put a Bob's gun somewhere. Hold on. Bob's guns, dude. Surprise saxophone, by the way. Unless that's a trumpet or something. I don't know my horns. My brasses from my horns. Barely know my fucking winds. All I know is they howl. Yeah. Listen, Bob is a cool Cerebret. If he wants to sell guns, that's his Second Amendment right. Okay. Whoa! Creep civilian, new Zerg unit. At some point, I'm gonna have to actually go into Photoshop and make the new models, the new sprites for these units. I'm thinking what I'll probably wind up doing is fusing bits of the lurker, like some of the lurker pieces to the Hydralisk for the Basilisk, so that it's sort of like an in-between. But that's gonna be a really long production. And then you're gonna see fucking... The Vorvaling will be a little bit simpler, because all I'm going to do is take the Zergling and then, like, make its tail longer and do some other things to fuck with the profile, the unit outline. Those are gonna take a long time. Finally. I don't think it's necessarily new now. Them going to court is probably new. But them scanning faces, no. They've probably been doing it since the technology has existed to do it. I like how that's the only worry. Yeah, it's illegal to keep track of children. It's fine to do it for adults, though. Well, they probably tacitly agree to it in the terms and conditions, if I had to guess. Oh, right, yeah. They also keep track of you based on phone numbers, which is really crazy, in my opinion. So, like, if your phone number is in somebody... Like, say you don't use Facebook, but your mom and your girlfriend do. So if your mom is on Facebook, and your girlfriend's on Facebook, and they both have you in in their contacts as the same phone number but with a different name, boyfriend and son, or whatever, then your name, which they'll also presumably have access to through your contacts, will create a temporary profile for you, which is psychotic. Like, I don't understand how they can even do that. Oh yeah, well, of course. They don't want you actually reading that. Why would they want you to read just how badly you're getting fucked? They would much rather you just shut up and get fucked. Psychotic. Right. Gotta make that money, LOL. Alright. Advertisers. Why not? Oh, I forgot to put in the guards for the other... the other guards that I had placed for the expansion. Do that after I plug these in. It's definitely something that works, because otherwise there wouldn't be so many companies built around that. That's sick. Getting gayed by Google. Basilisk. Actually, you'd be surprised how many people click ads. It seems like nobody would, in their right mind, do so, but... The bigger thing to think about is, even if you don't click on an ad, you still see it. And even if you don't really think about it actively, you're still thinking about it subconsciously. So for example, there have been plenty of times where I've seen an ad for like an energy drink, and maybe it's not even an energy drink that I like, but it will make me think about energy drinks, and then I might want to go buy an energy drink, or I might want to drink one right now, or whatever. So like that train of thought, like being aware of it is nice, but you don't always have the ability to stop it, is the problem. Like, especially if you're not aware of that it's happening. Yeah, a lot of places have the other option now for gender as catch-all. A lot of the times it's just preying on people who, like, especially with those email scams, it's preying on people who have no fucking social interaction with other individuals. Usually, like, old people that, you know, people, their relatives don't call or whatever. Which is, of course, very sad, but that's how they get taken advantage of, usually. Oh, okay. Did I already grab the coordinates for the third? I did. Nice. Well, I think if they drew it out into the limelight how greedy these people were, these are corporations were, there would probably be more legislature against them, so... That's my understanding of it anyway. Well, yeah, because they're able to still do stuff. You'd have to hire a lot more people for that, and yeah, odds are they're not allowed to in the first place. Yeah, the best thing that you can do for ads is just to recognize that they do have a pure, like a proven, scientifically proven reaction or effect on you. So you are going to be affected by them, and just being conscious of that and trying to figure out, like... Well, basically, if you just are in the middle of purchasing something, or thinking about purchasing something, if you can just think, do I really want this, or do I really need this? In which case... If it was influenced by an ad, it's like... It might as well have just been a PSA that, hey, you forgot to buy this? Like, okay. But if it isn't... If it's something that's like an impulse buy, that given enough time you would have talked yourself down from doing, just recognizing that trend at least can be helpful. It doesn't matter, like, it's not a win for them unless you buy their product, for sure, but the idea is that it's like kind of a long con scenario. It's not always immediate, and for some ads it is immediate. Especially for people with disposable income. Oh boy. Alright, what do we got here? We got 4 Zerglings, an Uraj, Callus, and 2 Hydras. Yeah, the devil you know versus the devil you don't. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily advocate for something quite so extreme. It is a shame, though, that, oops. Like, I wish it wasn't the case that we were... at the, like, beholden to these companies and stuff. Nice. So, did I even do the hatchery? Oops. Hey, welcome back, Cutilis. Well, ideally the map won't last for only 20 minutes. The power time for every mission is somewhere between 30 minutes and an hour and a half, depending on the map. Oh, no, don't worry about it, man. Work comes first, I know that. Alright, so we know one of them is going to be a syncom. Let me just finish this and I'll finish my thought after that. Let's see here. Third is Spore. Okay. All right, so what was I just gonna say? Oh yeah, so I was thinking about this too, and this is more food for thought for people who anybody who has any thoughts about it can let me know. So basically, one of the things that I was thinking about is that the skill level of the AI is probably not going to increase. Like, the way that a map will become harder is mostly that, like, you'll have to adapt to some of the new technologies that are available for all races at that point. So, like, for example, in this Zerg campaign, like, more technology is going to unlock the more missions you are. So, like, the difference between the first map and the fifth map will be some combination of the map itself being different, like the layout being different. Probably there's more resources on the map. That's, like, a safe assumption just because the map scale gets larger. But there's not going to be necessarily more players on the map, and there might not necessarily be, like, significantly better AI from mission to mission in terms of how good they are at Starcraft. What's more likely to happen is they have different tools at their disposal, so they're going to be adapting their strategies that they showed you in the first maps to improve their strategies in the later maps that they play. Like, that's more so what I want to accomplish with the AI and Hydra. And the challenge in Hydra is mostly going to be figuring out how to adapt your strategies to work with not only your new toys, the new technology that you have, but also the strategies that are being employed by the enemies. And there's a little bit more of a persistent world for that. Yeah, hopefully we can eschew that limit at some point, Balethal, because I really want to have, like, giant, like, maps with, like, 16 players on them and stuff, but probably not for Hydra, per se. That being said, you have, what? Let's see. So, like, for example, this map actually only has 5 players, whereas the previous map had 7? So there's actually a downgrade in terms of scale of number of players, but the map will probably take as long, if not longer, because the map itself is wider. There's more of a, well, yeah, I guess more of a distance between the bases, so less rush potential, just based on that. And it's going to take longer to put AIs down, to finally kill them for good. Just because there's going to be more resources, more expansions, so on and so forth. Even though this is a lower econ map than you might see later on, in terms of the number of resources in each expansion, there's still a good number of expansions. And Defender's Advantage is still a thing. It's even more so a thing in this map compared to the previous one, because again, that rush distance is actually longer. So even though there's less players overall, it's going to take longer to put each individual one down. And so, ideally, we'll see the same, if not a longer, par time for this map compared to the first one, just because of that. And that's a very different paradigm than just making the AI harder, so that the map takes longer, if you know what I mean. So, I don't know what people think of that generally, but I feel like it'll be a better approach. Yeah, I was concerned about that too, with the number of AIs on each map, Alexander. But I do think that this approach kind of nullifies that, because I'm not going to be just increasing the difficulty of the AI. It's like the AI have their own skill limitations, and that's why they gravitate towards specific playstyles and army compositions, and how aggressive they are versus how conservative they are and all that. How often they expand versus how often they rush versus how often they tech up. Like, what do they spend their money on, basically? Like, those playstyles are not going to change dramatically. You might encounter a new player that plays very differently than the old ones that you fought. For example, Tyrion is definitely going to play different than Ultramarine. But you've already encountered Ultramarine in the first Zerg mission, so you have some idea of how Ultramarine plays. And Ultramarine's not going to play differently in Zerg 2 compared to Zerg 1 on the basis of, like, suddenly having a different strategy. It's just going to have maybe some more tools to use. Maybe it's going to play a longer and more conservative game because the map is bigger. Like, any number of things could be possible. Maybe a map doesn't favor drops as much as another mission, and so the map layout is going to interfere with some of the strategies in that regard. Like, it could be any number of things that tweaks the difficulty in that sense. So I'm looking forward to exploring that anyways. It's definitely something that is a lot of Hydra is pretty much an experiment in many ways, but I hope that it can stand on its own strengths and like, I don't want it to justify its existence based on the fact that it's a tech demo. I would prefer, yes, there are going to be certain things that are going to be tech demo-y about them, like the number of new units and the number of new terrain, and like a lot of the things about it are experiments, or it's the first of its kind in certain respects, but I also want it to stand on its own legs in that sense, have its own foundational aspects to it that just don't get overshadowed by the fact that there's so much that's an experiment, I guess. Because a lot of mods down the years have been experimental and maybe interesting from a tech demo perspective, but they haven't given you a enjoyable gameplay experience on their own. It was more like, oh, the novelty of experiencing something different. Yeah, so Remastered uses a very different code base. Advanced modding techniques are pretty much impossible on it. Because the way that it works is, when we're modding on 1.16.1, the game is stable, you're not going to get any more patches, and memory addresses in the game that store information can be modified to use our new code. I'm not super well versed in the specifics, otherwise I'd be doing the programming myself, but that's basically the rub of it, is because Remastered gets patched so frequently, every single time it patches, a bunch of the memory addresses change. And we don't have the technology to automatically find and fix find and rewrite our old code that referenced a memory address A, and then the patch changes that memory address to a different one entirely. We don't have a technology, any program that will automatically find what the old memory address is, like that new address for it, and then update our program to refer to the new one. So because of that alone, we can't do things like just like a lot of the stuff, like telling the AI exactly where to build its base. Like, you can't do that on Remastered because that technology requires a stable memory address. So like a lot of the stuff that we actually have limitations for in 1.16.1 is like, you know, the number of unit entries or something like that. And we're working to get new systems in. And so it's not just that the tools that we have now are not completely compatible. It's that a lot of the new things that we're going to be adding to the game are not possible to add in the future for Remastered. Like, you can barely add new terrain in the game. I'm pretty sure it's technically possible, but nobody would do it because it's so asinine for Remastered. Like, the process of doing it is so annoying and time-consuming. Whereas, obviously, that's something I really want to add, is all these new terrain types and stuff. So, of course I'm going to be doing that. Like, that alone would make me want to make it in 1.16.1. And yes, yeah. So, the thing is, Samace is pretty good. Samace is the program that compiles your remastered data, your mod data, into a remastered compatible executable. So, for the stuff that we can mod in Remastered, Samace is pretty good at that. So when a new patch hits, you might not even have to re-download an update to Samace. Samace might be able to update your mod for you. But think about it as an end user. Every time a patch hits for Remastered, you have to wait for the developer of a mod that you're playing to update their exe with this program, Samace, and then upload it to a file locker like Mega or wherever you're downloading it from. then you have to download it and replace your old version. And this happens like 2 or 3 times a month sometimes, depending on the frequency of patches. For something like Hydra, where it's never necessarily going to be final, like it's going to be years, at least a year before I'm done with everything to do with Hydra. Like that would be so disruptive to people who are trying to play it. And then on top of it, when it's done, like the original version of Hydra Rebel Yell that's done and I'm not working on it anymore, I'm working on a brand new version. That version would have to continuously be updated. I would have to continuously update it every time it broke and re-upload it. I'm not doing that. So I just moved it back over to 1.16.1 so that people can still play that old version of it without issue. But it's just crazy that, like, the amount of extra steps you'd have to take, basically. Right, so we would need some software. Like, basically, in a perfect world, tool devs would be able to come up with some way to fix these issues. Like, one tool that I theorized, which probably wouldn't work with Remastered anyways, is this mod loader. And this program would basically... it would run off a server that I would pay for running multiplayer maps, because currently playing multiplayer on an old version of the game is really bad. Like, it's really annoying to do and set up. But it would... So basically, this would be like an alternative for that would resolve that issue. And you would get the ability to run this mod loader, this launcher program, and you'd have a list of mods that you had downloaded. And they could be in whatever directories you would just specify in the launcher's settings. And you could, with one click, play that mod, play vanilla Starcraft, play whatever, and you could build a game, like a game lobby, in the launcher itself, and then when everybody had joined that launcher's room, they would play, and it would start the Starcraft mod and map that you had particularly set up. Like, stuff like that would be way better than what we have currently. But you'd basically need something like that, but with checks to update the mods automatically, like we were just talking about. So it'd be another step on top of that. I hope that I can get at least the 161 version of that, made by somebody, but I have no idea how long it would take to make something like that. Because we need some system, some solution to working with multiplayer for this version of the game. Oh, you know what? I forgot to do this. It's very important. I think there's either 18 or 19. I don't remember how many there are in this. I'll figure that out later. All right, so we know that for we've got 9, 10, and 16 are out. So we'll close all of those. Then for 3. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that would be the idea, Balethal, is that you don't have to go into your router's config page in order to set up 161 multiplayer, basically. Hey! Give that man back his refinery, you piece of shit. These are resource areas in 2019, man. Look at that. That's sick. People ask me, like, why is the start location in such a dumb place? Because if I move it closer, it steals that man's gas. It's not a lot. Hold on. Minimize this. I don't know. Also, it looks like YouTube chat is no longer being shown, so I'll just migrate the YouTube chat over. I don't know, man. It really wants a geyser. It's looking for any Vespene geyser on the same height level. Can you please give me a geyser? That's okay. It's even worse. If I go into the placement version of the first map, it's probably still like that. No, I guess not. So what was happening in this is that this geyser was being assigned to this town. And I had to like move a bunch of minerals around in order to... It was something ridiculous. Yeah, of course. So... And then I think this was even worse. This was like... Well, holy fucking shit. Well, as you can see, it's still pretty bad. Oh, no. Don't make me do that. Well, anyways, I've done that, so... I don't think there is a 19th. Yeah. That, obviously that doesn't matter at all for, the player, but AIs will say, like, they'll say, hey, those mineral fields or that Vespene geyser is part of my base, and start mining it from, like, halfway across the map. So, it's great. It's a great time. Every time. In fact, why don't I just copy this whole thing? Since it's for the same player anyway, so it'll have the same idea. Bing. Bong. Okay. Cool. Alright, and if I need to do anything later, I will. The joys of working on it once, I can copy and paste again later on. No problems. So now we just need attacks and attack targets, and we'll be good. Oh, it'd probably help if I put in the coordinates for the expansions. What? My head. Okay, cool. We did it. So even with all that said about copy and pasting, I definitely didn't do a great job of doing that this time. Pretty much everything here was written from scratch, which is silly because some of it didn't have to be. But I think we've consolidated things pretty well by running everything in this area. Nice. I want to say my next AI to do will definitely be Ultramarine because he's player 4 and I just did player 3. But yeah, this map will be pretty fun to play, I think. I'm always pretty critical of my own work, but I do think that this is an exciting layout. It's kind of an underexplored concept in RTS game design, I feel like. At least the designers I've talked to, the developers I've talked to, haven't really explored or talked about the like map design too much, but I think it'll be cool to see where this goes. Hopefully it gets people thinking about it a little bit more too. It definitely needs to be decorated a little bit more. Well, yeah, it's funny you say that, Val. That's actually one of the reasons why I'm like interested in map design now, is because I've been watching so many pro games and I've been trying to think, like, you know, what would be different in if like a certain element of the map was different. It's also really apparent when I was playing that Retribution campaign this past week. We're going to finish that tomorrow, but playing that has really reminded me of a lot of those like early days of map design, right? Where it's like you got one path to the enemy base, not like 40, like what happens in these maps. And I really like the fact that you can maneuver around bases now. Like, that wasn't possible before in any of my own maps even. I really like that you don't start out in some corner or on a map border. You can move around and flank and find a different attack angle. And you have to worry about the AI doing that too, because of the way that the AI is designed. And some melee maps do start you out in corners and borders, but the bulk of the map still involves moving around a lot in melee. Like, the bulk of the gameplay involves moving around the map, I should say. And finding favorable attack angles. You don't really have to worry about that in campaigns for the most part, and I want to change that with Hydra's maps. I feel like we're off to a decent start so far, so... Oh, wait. Fuck. There we go. We did it. Well, that was a little eerie. I thought there was going to be a drop coming, but it was just YouTube pausing my video. Thanks. Fucking appreciate it. Right, yeah, I mean, that only makes sense. I'm thinking that static defense... I've always struggled with how to solve the problem posed by static defense, because it rarely costs supply, which is something I have experimented with, is making static defense cost supply, but otherwise be, like, more powerful than normal static defense would be. So that if you want to employ a heavier static defense to lock down a position, you have to dedicate some supply to it. Like, bunkers obviously cost supply. So, like, to staff, to be useful at all. But photon cannons don't. Spore colonies and sunken colonies don't, so there's not really any issue there. Whereas, I would like to see... I don't know. I feel like maybe... larger, like, maybe I would end up adding heavier static defense that is, like, maybe even artillery static defense or something that can outrange or even range siege tanks, like, meet them in the middle there. And hey, Gentrific makes a good point. What's up, dude? Never thought of it that way, did you? Oh yeah, the default campaign is designed around that for sure. The thing is, like, with most static defense, you would have to build a lot of it to deflect most of the attacks that you see in Hydra. Especially in the mid to late games. Like in the early games, yeah, 2 sunken colonies can probably cover you for a little bit, but you're not gonna you're not gonna last very long with that. I don't think. Alright. Let's quickly fix this ramp up before and maybe do an extended Rusty Pit ramp and then we'll be done. Yeah, I wouldn't make it for all static defense. I would make it only for really, really, like, higher level static defense or whatever. The Terrans can already build an ion cannon now, so the idea that you would, yeah, I think that would be fine. Wow, Photoshop already struggling. Hopefully it doesn't memory leak anytime soon. Okay. Yeah. I'm sure it'll be fine. Alright, were there any other small bits and pieces I needed to make? I don't think so. This blend's fine. Oh wait, maybe it doesn't. There's the, at least this stuff is very straightforward by compared to the other junk I was doing. Yeah, the space dirt was a lot of work for sure. Oops. Alright, so this is like platform ramp misc, what do you call it? Oh yeah, I think it justified the work for sure, but it was a tough sell in many respects. Actually, I think in this case, pretty much all of this can go. And now we play the reconstruction game. While some spurned lover complains about love to us in the background. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what they mean by that. Pretty sure that's what diversity is our strength means. I mean, make more tiles for Brood War, please. Don't. No, I don't. You can't say that. It's very easy to dislike anime, unfortunately. Not only because of the fan base, which tends to be pretty rabid, but also because a lot of the examples that, well, I can't really speak to this with too much authority. This is more so what other people have told me. But when they get recommended anime, it's because when they go into trying to watch it or whatever, it's because people are saying, "Oh yeah, this is great," and then they go and sit down and they pay all of their attention to it as if they were watching a really good movie in a movie theater. They try to take it as seriously as possible. When the people who communicated to them that the idea to watch it are playing video games and looking at it on their second monitor. That's how people are watching anime, I guess. And this is again what people have told me. So if that's actually the case, then they're not doing a very good job arguing for anime. In that case, it's it's also really overdramatic, obviously. So it's not really. If you can't get over the melodrama of the way that the art style is animated, or just the art style itself, and like the way that most of the characters are animated, you're gonna have a pretty bad time trying to get into like anything of value out of the experience of watching it in the first place. So that's why I say it's easy to dislike it on a very surface level. I'm sure there are pretty decent anime out there. Like I've watched One Punch Man recently. I thought that was a fine concept for a show, even if it wasn't necessarily executed super well. I thought I got a good laugh out of it. It was an enjoyable watch. It's not the greatest show in history, obviously, but it was fun. It's pretty much all you can ask for out of a show these days. Yeah, people who have recommended me stuff like the mainstream stuff, like Attack on Titan or whatever, they're like, yeah, this is a great anime. And, like, they play League of Legends and look at it on their second monitor or something. Like, they're not really paying that much attention to it. So. Meanwhile, I'm, like, setting aside time that I could be spending on working on projects or playing a video game that I know I'm going to enjoy, like Brood War or Counter-Strike. I'm spending that time watching this show without any distraction in the background, without playing League of Legends, and wondering what human being would ever recommend this. Because I'm sure it's fine if you're not really paying attention, sort of like Michael Bay or whatever. But really? I know some, well, that's not really a good example, I guess, because a lot of the people that I've heard say good things about that show are also into My Little Pony, so you can't trust them, per se. I shouldn't be surprised. I was gonna say, like, not all of them are 12. Then I look at like what they like. It's like, maybe they are at heart. Holy shit, really? I guess that explains why there's so much filler. Like, Naruto and stuff are famous for filler. I still don't understand really why Dragon Ball Z like took off in the States. I'm not really 100% sure about that one. Like, I don't fully understand. I guess maybe it was just people's first anime or something, and I don't know. Fillers are because anime is ahead of the manga. Ah, okay. I would never have guessed. I guess that's what happened to Game of Thrones. People were real upset about that. Problem with putting this stuff together is you always have to preview it. Any of this man-made shit needs to be blended well. You can be much more haphazard with how you blend other stuff, like natural tiling. I guess it only makes sense. But I'll still complain about it. Is there really a lot of plagiarism in anime? I think I just missed the boat on it. Like, I used to watch Toonami back in the day on Cartoon Network, but that was it, man. And all they did was show fucking Naruto and Dragon Ball. Although they did show this one insane anime called Bobobo, which I thought was fucking psychotic. But I watched it when I was literally 12, by the way. So I can't say too much about its quality. Seemed like a good show.
What was that?
Sounded like Trump. Trying to see if there's any other obvious issues with the way that this is laid out, but this could be a bit straighter. Talking about the gay agenda. Turning the frogs, then turning the humies. Alright, so now we need to take the edge of one of these ramps and preview it. What? Hold on. I gotta orient myself here. Okay. So now we see, sort of, what's going on here. Oh, wait. Alright, it seems like it blends okay. Obviously, I have to mask this out here. Oops. To make sure. Toonami is like a network. Oh, it was a program that was run on Cartoon Network, which is a local, well, it's like a US-based TV channel. And you would, like, Toonami would run at the later hours, like before midnight, and then you'd hear you'd have Adult Swim on after midnight, I think. But yeah, it was like, it was basically animated shit. Okay.
This is Hamptonville 911. What's your emergency? We got some kind of man rolling around here in the neighborhood out in the streets. What's the guy look like, sir? From what I see, from where I'm at, he's got some kind of long sleeve shirt on and some pants, kind of a darkish grayish color. He's wearing a creepy mask with some brown hair sticking out, white face, black eyes, and he's also got a knife in his hands. Do you know what he might be trying to do with it? My guess is he's probably going to try to kill somebody. Alright. Well, we'll send the call for you right down there, okay? We'll have
What an epic storytelling bit in this electronic song. Really, really fits, guys. I love it.
okay. Can I have your phone number?
Just need to smooth this area out now.
He's probably going to try to kill somebody. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. This is scary. Yes, sir, it is.
That quote about anime getting me into Starcraft 1 getting me into anime was
This is scary. Can you see anything at all from where you're at?
it was from some guy on Mac Chaos joined the server, and he was like, "Oh, Vision of the Future got me into anime or something." I don't know about that one.
Happened on this night of October the 31st, but I remember a murder that a little boy did back in '63 to his little sister, and I think it was in the Myers house.
Okay. All right. I think we've done it. So we'll import this and see what we can do with it. Depressing quote, yeah. Exactly. Okay. Let's try that. We'll import our latest changes to the tile set. Close that. I'm not using that anymore. Oh, I did not know that. Thank you for plaguing me with this information. What a song. Okay. There is something to be said for establishing, like, very quickly showing what this, I guess in this case an anime, but like whatever medium you're looking at, really quickly showing what that's going to be like. But I don't really know if it's quite what they were doing in that case. Trying to see if I have any other ramps I need to do this with, but it doesn't look like it. Okay. Oh, it seems like it's good. I might tweak some of the rust patterns to break them up a little bit. And this area in particular might need to be updated a little. But it looks like it's fine. Overall, passable. But yeah, to what I was just saying earlier, if you look at, for example, like Meska's talked about his tutorial map for his campaign in Starcraft 2 and how its purpose is only to weed out casual players. Like you need a APM of like 150 or so, or like that would be like the targeted thing, 120, 150. And the idea is that it shows you very early on what this campaign is about. Like, you're gonna get rushed, you're gonna get hit in the early game, you're gonna have to do stuff, you're gonna have to be active and on the map, and really, like, you're gonna have to be aware. And stuff like that can be important and nice for, like, setting the tone, like, setting the pace. But it doesn't sound like what you were describing was done so with that intention, so... Yeah, for sure. The whole point is so that it feels more consistent in the future. So, if it's not actually consistent with it later, then of course, it's not going to be particularly of any use to anybody. Yeah. So I think that settles it, man. I'm good to go here. Gonna head out for a walk. But we've cracked 4 hours just about. Pretty nice. Thank you guys for joining me, and I will definitely be seeing you guys tomorrow for a map prep mod stream and for The last Retribution stream, number 3. Bye!